Hi, Robert. Good morning from India. Thank you for agreeing to interview you on Faster EFT. Thank you very much.
Very good. I'm very excited to be interviewed. I can't wait to hear your questions and see what we have going.
Okay, so friends, here is founder of Faster EFT, Robert Smith. I'm very excited to interview Robert. So Robert, tell me, how did you get into tapping?
Okay, well that's kind of a loaded question, but basically it starts out with, well, how do I back up? You know, I was 14, 15 years old. I moved with my grandmother. I had these nightmares, so I started studying about, hypnosis, church, etc. Married 18 years. Before we got married, my wife said she was abused as a child. My daughter reaches the same age that she was abused, and a lot of issues were coming up. And so I thought, well, we need help. So we found a person who did like guided imagery. It's kind of like a form of hypnosis. And so also before that, I had bought some courses at a garage sale, Your Unlimited Power by Anthony Robbins, which is NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming. Basically, NLP is inner structure, what your brain, how it represents things and how it replicates things. So then trying to figure out how to help her and help me, I found locally a person who taught NLP. So I called him up. I didn't really feel comfortable with him, so I said, well, can I watch a VHS tape? That's back when those were available. He sent it to me. I watched it. Go, well, can I talk to one of your students? So I talked to one of the students, and I told her what was going on. She said, well, you should check out emofree.com, which is EFT, and that was in '99. So I ended up buying the course in 1999, Gary's training course, and so I'm watching it, and I watched the videos, I read the book, and my first client was a local friend. Her name was Amanda, and she had a fear of heights. So I'm doing the long original version, which is, even though I have this problem, love and accept myself, even though I have this problem, 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 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the whole version, and I did it thousands of times. Well, it took about 45 minutes. Her fear was gone.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that was the very first person I worked on. And of course, my whole goal was buying the course was to help my wife and my family. So that became my aim. But, since I had NLP trainings lays what I would consider a healthy mindset. Basically, the model is, which I also incorporate, is you're not broken, there's nothing wrong with you, but your mind is using its inner resources to create what you call as a problem. So if you understand how you do it, not understand, but rewrite and change neurologically how you hold it, the problem goes away. So the premise of EFT with Gary Craig is that the cause of all problems is disruption in your energy system, which basically says inside you there's a blocked energy, and he gives the analogy: you take a screwdriver, put it in the TV, whirl the wires around, you turn it on, there's a spark inside the TV, it's not working. Which in reality, if you think about it logically, if you actually do that to a TV, no matter how much you tap on the outside of the TV, the wires will not go back into place. So NLP is going inside of the TV, putting the wires back, and now the TV works. So now we work. So that's how I started with EFT and tapping. Now, of course, I've been doing this since '99, so I've been doing it over 22 years. This was my full-time job. It was my passion. I didn't do it for money. I did it because I loved helping people. So that's how I got started. So if somebody stood still long enough, I tapped on them, And of course, incorporating the most important part into the tapping process. Because believe it or not, if I had $1 for every time someone said EFT doesn't work, I would be a millionaire today. Because again, your problem is not because of disruption in your energy system. Your body is naturally responding and holding what your limbic system has captured. and organizes and now creates what we would call a problem. But in the brains or the limbic system, it's not a problem, it's an outcome based on internal references. So that's the starting of all this. So, and I went to like 4 different seminars with Gary Craig. I became an EFT master through Sylvia Hartman. I mean, I've been doing this a long time, and it's a passion of mine. So over the years, of course, the biggest problem that they say, why does tapping work? And they give you an analogy, well, if you're in the dark, it's nice to find a light switch to turn it on. But that doesn't really solve the problem. Why does it work? That was my mission. Why does this work? How does it work? And how to make it work better, where you can work with any person. And so therefore, that's how what was the beginning day. So I started with the passion to help myself, the passion to help my wife, and the passion to help others. So that's the beginning stages.
Okay. And what exactly inspired you to develop Faster EFT?
Well, it's an interesting question. I don't know if you know much about the history of EFT. Gary Craig created EFT from the work of Dr. Roger Callahan. Callahan techniques,
yes.
Later on it was called thought field therapy. All right. So he created it. He created his training course, which is a home study VHS course, and so it was working. So I bought his Ultimate Therapist course, which was a VHS tape, and had like many people. Marilyn Gordon was one. Dr. Larry Nims was another. Several other people. And so, one of the things that Gary said in the course, he said, hey, we have these guys in here. You take EFT and help us make it better. And so that was what I was doing. So I was passionate, tapping and tapping. And one time I brought a bunch of DVDs to Scottsdale, Arizona, and gave it to Gary. I said, hey, tell me what you think. So my thinking is he's going to let me be a part of his team because I worked so hard, but never heard anything from him. So at one point in the history of EFT, Gary's publicly announced that you cannot be using EFT. Now, and then he had a lot of lawsuits against him. And the lawsuits were from his trainers that he had trained. He had a heart attack. And then he said, I give EFT to the world. That now everybody can train and use EFT. So that's the history of it. So, and really, if you think about it, you're one of his trainers and he's training you, and he's saying you can't use it because he's trying to get control of it. Well, at that point, when he said you couldn't use EFT, and I'm thinking, I've done all this work. I thought I would just be a part of his team, And so I thought, well, I can't use EFT, but I can still use the acronym EFT. I call it electronic file transfer. But later on, I end up saying, well, it's EFT, but it's faster. So I just call it Faster EFT. Now, what makes it faster is not tapping faster. What makes it faster is actually going inside of the mind, eliciting internal strategy, how they represent it, how they create the problem. Therefore, it cuts out a lot of tapping. So you just go to the direct cause and you change it immediately, or super fast anyway, let's put it that way. Because obviously you've done tapping before, and if you know how tapping, you do parts and pieces, and you could do one memory, and it takes 3 hours to get one memory done. Well, what I've done is I've actually changed it to where understanding the structure of memory, how memory are held and how it represented, how to change it quicker. And of course, if you're always using EFT, you're always looking for something faster, some way to make it quicker.
Okay. Thanks, Robert, for that. And how is Faster EFT different from EFT?
There's several key points. One is how we perceive problems. Mm-hmm. I mean, again, blocked energy versus it's a creation of the mind. All right, that's two. All right, so one is when I do my training, I train people how to see problems, how people represent problems, how problems are created, and how to change them neurologically. Because I'm bringing in now the neuroscience about the limbic system, how the limbic system works, and how you can easily change a memory without even tapping. So you can do it without tapping. So why does tapping work? That's $1 million question as well. But so here it is. the biggest difference is I train how the mind works, I train how memories work, I train how problems are created. And a lot of times, how many times you heard somebody, I've got this problem, but I have no idea why I have it? Well, I know how to find that. I know how to change that. You know, people oftentimes will have memories. I was here at the grocery store, and the next thing I remember, I'm at home. There's a gap of something that happened. We don't know what it is. So how do you go find that? How do you change that? So it's a very complete operating system. Now, EFT was the best and most effective system I've ever found as far as immediate shifts and changes if you do it right. So the key to tapping is not tapping by itself, because you've heard it before. Most people do EFT. EFT doesn't work for me. And it's because it is not the tapping that makes the changes. It's the aiming internally and creating shifts inside is the key. So it's the philosophy about problems, it's the structure and how problems are manifested, and also how to decode and rewrite memory. So the part of the system is in order to change a problem, you got to identify the problem and you got to rewrite the memory that created the problem. That's the biggest difference. It's a complete operating system.
And Robert, to just go more into faster EFT, what are the various levels available in faster EFT?
Well, we have,
how many levels?
yeah, so, you know, of course, in the beginning days, I modeled after the EFT model, which in the beginning days, level 1 was a 2-day course. All right, 2-day course. So my level 1s is, the first level is a 7-day training course. And the 7 days is one of the biggest problems I see in healing modalities. If I got $1 for this, I can help other people, but I don't know how to help myself. I don't know how to change myself. I can work on others, but I don't know how to work on me. So my level 1 is, it gives you a foundation of how memories work. It shows you how to go into yourself, because my level 1 is foundation, how memories work, and showing you how to change yourself. That's the biggest problem that we have in therapies. Like I said, I have emotional issues. I can help them, but I don't know how to help me. So that's what I train, how to change yourself and how to heal yourself. All right. All right. So again, now that model there, I'm teaching what I'd call a parts and piece style, which is an EFT model. Basically, one piece at a time, tap on it, and then change it slowly. And also knowing neurologically how memories are represented and how to change the memory completely. And that's the key. Because see, again, one of the philosophies or the ideologies I operate from is that inside your mind, you have memories. Every person, every character, everything inside you is actually yourself. That means when you have a memory of mom and dad fighting in your mind, mom and dad are not in your head. That's you, inside you, a memory, a reference, a program that you'll learn to fight also with your partner, with your siblings, with your colleagues. So everything inside you is you, which is a major shifting understanding. Because when we're dealing with people and they say, my husband makes me feel bad, or my mother makes me feel bad, and yet nobody's there but you and them, they're actually creating it from inside their mind. So that's a major shift in perception. Because again, when you understand memory, if you recall a memory, you're actually recalling your recording of the event, which could be skewed or tilted or angled based on your filters. So when you change it from inside you, you don't change what happened in your childhood, you only change what your brain holds and what it does to you. So that's a major shift in thinking. So I have 4 levels. So the first level is showing you how to work on yourself. And I lay a foundation of how the brain works, how to change yourself, how to go in and find the secrets, the memories of how you have a problem, why you have a problem. Because a lot of times you may have this problem here, but this problem is not the problem. This is what you call a metaphoric expression of childhood school stuff, not this. So then knowing how to find that and change it and rewrite it is the art. So that's level 1. Level 2 is I have a process, we call it the quick tap, which is now I'm going to work on you. I can work on you a whole lot easier than I can work on me because I'm not in you. You could be having an emotional issue. I say, wow, you're in a place of a state, you know. So it's easier. So I have a process where we go into the unconscious. We tell the unconscious to do all the work, which means it cuts out a lot of tapping. And it's a structure. We say unconscious, go and change all the parts and pieces to the memory, and then we're going to consciously check and see if it's still there. And if there's anything there, we do all the 6 ways of re-imprinting memories to make sure that when we're done, they've got a smile on their face, the memory's been re-imprinted, and you go to the next one. So that's another key point. So level 2 is now you're working on each other. Working on, now by the way, since this is a very serious system, it actually goes deep. A lot of changes happen very quickly. And so what we do is we allow our practitioners to work only on each other because I don't know about you, I don't know if you've ever had somebody come in your office and you work with somebody, all of a sudden they go emotionally crazy and they have a really strong emotional reaction. It could scare you. So we say just practice and fine-tune the arts, and we have scripts and different things to learn and how to get people when they go into abreaction to pull them out, pull them back into conscious awareness and go back and clean up. So level 2 is that it's also 7 days. Level 3, now we're going and we're going to change, I'm going to show you how to change a lot of memories. You can do 25 memories at once. You can do 6 memories at once. You can stack memories, you can shelve memories, and you go in, you create a lot of changes, and then I'll show you how to change memories because sometimes, let's say you come to see me and you've seen something horrific, or you was physically, emotionally, or sexually abused, and the perpetrator said, if you tell anybody, I'm going to kill you. So you're so afraid to tell, or you maybe something you did, you're so ashamed of, you don't want to tell anybody, and I train my students how to change memories that they don't want to tell you what it is. And you can get a complete rewrite or re-imprint. So that's level 3. It's a lot of details. It's putting the magic together. And then level 4 is, again, another 7 days. We're going to show you how to go pain, you go have grief and loss, show you how weight loss works, and show you how to do addictions. All right? Now, each level of the 4 levels, you're required to get personal sessions on yourself. That means you need 10 hours of one of my practitioners changing your problems. So, level 1, you get 10 hours. All right? Now, when you do your 10 hours, you're getting from someone who's been trained by me, who's going to make some big changes. And then when you go to level 2, you're going to start practicing on each other. All right? And you still got to get 10 hours because we're going to clean up your mess. All right, now when you go to level 3, my level 3 practitioners, again, they're required to give level 1 people and level 2 people free sessions.
Okay.
So now my level 1 people are now being supported by my level 3 and 4. So now you're getting free sessions, level 2, free sessions, level 3, free sessions, level 4, free sessions, because you're practicing. By the time you graduate, not only is your health better, not only your relationship better, not only your fibromyalgia is better, and everything's better, we're also working to help create finances. And of course, when you go to level 1, you're not dealing with your emotions. A lot of people will try to escape their emotions by eating. So we work at level 2, clean up the weight loss because you're trying to use food to escape your emotions. And then we do finances, we do pain, and we do addictions. All of these at different levels. So it's not child's play. It's a very serious, very detailed, life-changing system. By the time you get through there, not only is your life changed, your health has changed, but you have a career that actually works, and you can see measurable changes. When you have a client, like I said earlier, I did a session just a couple of days ago. I had one of my practitioners do a session, and they're in the training part, and they sent me the video, and I watched it. Said, well, how many memories did you change in 2 hours? They said, we changed 2. I go, you changed 2? I said, okay. So what I do is I teach in the beginning stages. Changes is this. The changes are in the details. All right. That's what you have to know how to do. When I get to level 3, I say, now we're changing the rules. You don't need to do details anymore. Let me show you how to do 20 memories at once. Let me show you how to do 5 memories at once. And then we start doing. So I had the client come over, and I got her list, and I changed all 40 memories in a 2-hour session.
40 memories in
40
2 hours.
memories, 2 hours, and she can go back to those memories, and they're not the same. They're positive.
Okay.
So it's deep neurological shifts. It's measurable. That means you go back and measure it. You can see it. Also, we talk about how memories work. Now, this is so important. If you could really capture this. When you remember something of a childhood memory, whether it's positive and or negative, how the brain works, you go in what we call an autonomic trance. That means you almost feel like you're being beat up again by your brother, or you feel like you're there with your child, holding it and feeling wonderful. That's what you call the limbic system, which is the back part of the mind, making it feel real right now. That's a trance. So when you're having a bad feeling, or you're being fear, or you're having a trauma, you're in a state of hypnosis, a bad trance. And what we know, if we can pull you out of that trance and pull you back to right now, and if we do it enough, you can't create that trance again. As a matter of fact, the memory's changed, and you can't regenerate, recreate it, because it's neurological. And the beautiful thing about what I teach, it's scientific, it's practical, it's replicable, and anybody can do it when they understand how the mind works. So it's very, very powerful and super sensitive, I say sensitive, but super detailed. And also, we go to the details only when not everything changed at once. So, yeah.
Nice. So that's how each level goes much deeper. Mm-hmm. Right. And Robert, is it possible to get trained online to become a faster EFT practitioner?
Yeah. Okay, so what I train now, I train Eutaptics, Faster of T. All right, Eutaptics is a training system, which is the neuroplasticity of the mind. Yes, I do have online trainings. Again, with COVID-19 and how the world is locked down, we immediately came out with a program. We call it a hybrid program, which basically means, and there's a beautiful part about this. If you've ever been to one of my seminars, you're laughing, you're crying, you get so much information. It's a mentally and emotional overwhelm. There's so much stuff to learn. No time for sleep and no time for boredom. Matter of fact, the whole week disappears that fast with the content. So the beautiful thing now, and I tell my students, say, hey guys, buy the online course. Go back and watch it over and over again, because again, you can watch one video and then you go back a couple of days, you watch it again, the video changed because your content is so rich. So the beautiful thing is we do have what you call a hybrid online training course, level 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we also meet in groups. Now, one of the things that we have requirements is that you must practice with fellow colleagues. So now we have groups inside of the system where we meet with Zoom and you break out into rooms. And then also we have groups that you can, if you're only a practitioner of the system, you know, level 1 group, level 2, 3, and 4 group, where you meet with other people. Hey, I'm in India at this time zone. I need someone to practice with. And then you have your sessions and you practice with each other. Now, like I said before, what we're creating is basically a team or a family of friends or colleagues who care. Because let's say you're having a bad day. You're going to go to your buddy who you've been tapping and trading with and say, I've got some stuff going on, I need some help. Guess what? You get a free session right there. And then next week, you return that to them. So it's a continually healing training process.
Okay. So now you have slowly started supporting the online training as well.
Yeah, live training. We do live via Zoom. Yeah.
Okay. That's awesome. And Robert, as you are telling about NLP, there are EFT practitioners who are also certified NLP practitioner, master practitioner, and use EFT along with NLP. Mm-hmm. But still, how faster EFT differs from using EFT and NLP or faster EFT?
Well, most people who are trained in NLP will clearly tell you, NLP is great, but how do you use it? How do you make it practical? How do you apply it? And I've been doing this for so long, it is actually woven into the entire system where you're trained and not even knowing you're using NLP. And so it's very woven in. And I've had people say, well, Robert, hey, listen, I took EFT, I took NLP, I took this, I took that. I don't want to go to level 1, I want to skip to level 3. I said, no, you have to go to level 1. Because most people do not know how to apply it. Most people don't know how to incorporate it into the session. That's what I trained. I mixed it. I mean, again, remember, I've been doing this since '94 with NLP. and mixing, matching. And even Gary Craig's even trained NLP master, but you don't see much NLP in the system. Now what I have done is I incorporate all the good pieces where it's just a flowing system where you don't have to drop in and out and this and that. It's magical, especially if you ever see a session. And again, remember, we talk about you going into your trance, and when you go to a happy memory or a sad memory, you go into a trance. There's a process that hypnotists use. Now, by the way, understanding what is hypnosis, when you go into a bad memory, that's a state of hypnosis. And what we want to do is what we call defractionate. Now, if you don't know what fractionate is, now our brains learn in fractions and pieces. Like when you're going to, when you're a child, you learn how to use a pencil and you learn how to put A and B and all the letters. Eventually you can write words out. These are all fractions. But when you're having a trance and then you're having a panic attack, you're full on in a deep hypnotic state. So fractionation, hypnotists will guide your mind to take you in trance and pull you back out. And then they take you in. Naturally, you build on top of these learnings. So what we do is we take you, like you're here and you say you got panic attacks, so take a deep breath, close your eyes and go back and remember. Boom, you're fully in the deep hypnotic trance of panic attacks. And what we do is we fractionate. We pull you back out, pull you back here. And by the way, that's why tapping actually works. That's why it actually works. It's not that you're unblocking energy, but you're actually defractionating or introducing into the memory what you call a relaxation process. So you're flattening out the neurons in the mind, and when your brain updates the memory each time, the memory is now adjusted. But now we're doing it in super fast speeds. So yes, it's a mix of NLP, hypnosis, psychosensory therapy, which is a tapping style. And by the way, like I said before, we can do it without tapping. I have a video in the training where this woman had a rape memory, and it took me 12 minutes, and she laughed all the way through it, and the memory was completely annihilated. She can't even make it bother. She can't even find out what it was. And it took me 12 minutes, and I used a phone app, flatten out that memory. So again, it's the understanding that the mind is the powerful machine. Now we have prefrontal cortex, which is 40% of our brain. 60% is the limbic system. Knowing how to operate that limbic system and make it work for us instead of against us and flatten out all the bad memories, you're going to have an amazing life.
Awesome. Okay. So, Robert, what do you think? Like, what are the must-read books for tapping professionals? Not just Faster EFT or any sort of EFT.
Yeah. So, some books I highly recommend. One book there's several books. One of them is User's Manual for the Brain, Understanding the Neuroplasticity, NLP. Another one is called Monsters and Magical Sticks. There's no such thing as hypnosis. Another book that I use highly is especially we're dealing with physical pains. If I have it laying around here, normally I do sessions right here, is because I do pains, we do addictions. I mean, I worked 10 years volunteering in a drug rehab, and I just take my system in. And if you hadn't seen amazing work, go to my YouTube channel, Healing Magic, or Robert Gene Smith, EFT. You'll find me. Type in Nick. We bring these addicts in and we change it this fast. An hour and a half later, if they can't even find their addiction, matter of fact, they're repulsed by the drug. So another book that we use for healing your body is Louise Hay, Heal Your Body. It's a little book. Another one is Ina Segal's book, Secret Language of the Body. And then another one is Metaphysical Anatomy. Now, how I use these three books is because the brain is a metaphoric machine. That means metaphorically, you look at a marker and all of a sudden you have an emotional reaction. Now, it's not the marker itself because it did nothing to you, but it does represent your childhood experiences. Physical pain is exactly the same. You'll have traumas and your brain will use the physical pain to try to keep you safe. So we use these books to metaphorically look for the mental or emotional expressions in the body. Remember, a lot of people point at the body is making me feel bad, but here's the fact. The body is a servant to your limbic system. It does it, and it catches your conscious attention. You don't even know why you're feeling panic. But the unconscious knows why. And so the physical reaction is a metaphoric expression of unchanged, unresolved unpleasant memories. So those are some of the books. So I would definitely read Monsters and Magical Sticks, No Such Thing as Hypnosis, User's Manual for the Brain. Another one I started with, which is I think is a really good one as well, as my first NLP book, is MindWorks. It's another NLP book. Monsters and Magical Sticks I mentioned, Louise Hay, Heal Your Body, Ina Segal's book, Secret Language of the Body, and Metaphysical Anatomy by Rose. These are ones I use as standards.
Could you please repeat the last book you said?
Metaphysical Anatomy.
Okay, Metaphysical Anatomy.
Yeah, by Rose. I don't know what her first name is now, but yeah. It's a great book because a lot of times people will have physical pains, which are metaphoric expressions of unresolved emotional issues. And so we're just looking at a book and you have, like for example, you may have a stomach pain and it may say something like having trouble digesting your problems or feeling inadequate. So we'll just say, in your life, do you feel inadequate? Are there things in your life you're not knowing how to deal with? So we use that as a guide, not as a gospel or rule, but we use it to try to find a way in to the unconscious or the limbic system.
Okay. Thanks so much for that.
Yeah.
And of course, you have told about NLP right from beginning of this interview, but still I want to ask once again, did combining NLP to the tapping helped in seeing more results?
Of course.
Yes.
Yeah, the reason why you have to do this, if you use the model, you come to see me, and I'm going to use an EFT thinking model. You come to see me, and you're having relationship problems, and you say, I have relationship problems, and the model is that you have a blockage in your body somewhere. So we're going to say, well, where do you feel that in your body? And then we'll try to tap on that. And then we try to tap on this blockage. And so with incorporating NLP, I realize that the body reaction is an expression of something else. So we have what we call the process called the art of change: aim, release, and transform, which means it elicits unconscious strategy. As we pull out the information, now we create what you call a how to have a problem that you would have. Then we go and we start changing the memory references of the problem. Now all of a sudden your stomach feels better and your relationships get better. So the NLP, if you're going to be any healing modality, if you understand mental game rules, it's easier to make changes. You know, it's that simple. And that's what NLP does for me. It gives me the playground of the mind. It lets me know what you're doing inside your head and how you know it's true. That's what it is.
Okay, right. And one question we keep listening, or I keep listening, of course you would have come across this. Why does EFT not work for a lot of people?
That's a good question. Yeah, and a lot of times people do that because, first of all, a lot of people think it's a tapping that's going to solve the problem. Tapping will not solve it unless you do something before you tap. And that is identify, aim, and then try to flatten out the neurons in the mind. How you hold it in your mind. Flatten out the kinesthetics. Flatten out the visuals. So that's why a lot of people, and plus, they're actually, if you don't break down the pieces that you used to create the problem, and they're going to say, you know, like Gary would say, you're tapping too global, but what you really need to do is get the details and how they had this problem. Is this a pattern? Have you done this before? Or who you acting like? Who'd you learn it from? What benefits is this problem giving you? That is the key. And a lot of times, if you have somebody who took a 2-hour EFT training and now they got an EFT certification, they're going to go out and tap on somebody and they don't know what they're playing with. And they don't know what they're doing, and then they say EFT doesn't work because a guy took a 2-hour training EFT course and it didn't work for me, so therefore it gives a bad name to EFT. My level 1 is 7 days. Full-on days of pure mental education, understanding how and why. It cuts out failure. Faster T, Ataptix Faster T, is a university style system. It's a thorough training system, because if you think about it, you've got a 12 or 15 or 20-year-old person that comes in to see you. They've been physically abused, sexually abused, emotionally traumatized. How are you going to handle that if you only took a 2-hour course? How are you going to be able to help that person create a good life? So what I did is I created an entire big system. There's a lot of doctors who use this, a lot of neuroplasticians I'm creating out there in the world. This is a serious, effective, professional system that will set you above all other modalities. The thing I hear the most is that I've been trying everything. I tried this, I tried that, I tried EFT, I tried that. It didn't work. And the beautiful thing about what I teach, it makes sense, it's simple, it's practical, and I can teach children to use it on themselves.
That's effective and easy it is. Yeah. So, Robert, thanks for telling about Faster EFT and how you helped and how a lot of people got helped by it. But at personal level, how did Faster EFT help you? How was your life before and after? Could you please tell the difference?
Yeah, it's a good question, because, you know, I do look back, because, you know, you see me publicly, you see me presenting. That was not Robert. I was scared. I could never speak publicly. Even in school, you know, when they want to read publicly, I couldn't do it. Come up to the chalkboard, I was extremely shy, because you have to understand, you know, I'm the oldest of 6 kids. My stepfather was abusive. I mean, we would get beat, and of course, we had very low self-esteem, very low value. And so, at the time when I bought the NLP stuff and then the EFT stuff, I didn't have a job. I had 3 kids. I watched my kids. I stayed home. I worked on cars. I had grease, you know, under my fingernails and on my hands. But the mindset was then what the NLP did is said, listen, if you change your mind, you invest in your mind, your life will get better. So I started there. That's where I started. I had a mobile home behind my house, my mobile home. I had 40 junk cars. I mean, that was the old Robert. And then I started listening, and I'd listen, and my kids would tell you, Dad's always listening to self-help. Always Anthony Robbins, Dr. Richard Bandler, all these, and all the great guys, you know. And then I didn't think I could own anything new, you know, because at the time I had a Dodge truck, a 4-door Dodge truck. Not one panel on the truck matched the color of the rest of the panel. I mean, it had in-floor air conditioning, basically had holes in the floor, you know, so it was like Sanford and Son in a sense, you know. And so I started tapping on myself and tapping on my fears, and the guy across the street had bought a piece of property on back taxes. Now, had I not been listening to Anthony, I probably wouldn't even cared. I wouldn't even tried. But he said he bought it on back taxes. I said, how did you do that? So the next month, I owned a piece of property. I paid $450 for it, and I turned around and traded it for a car, which I sold it for $4,500 in 1 month. The second one, I paid $750 for it, and 10 years later, I sold it for $40,000. From that point forward, I started, you know, I kept listening to self-help, and then when the EFT came, it was the fastest change because it could immediately shift internal feelings. So, you know, never ever spoke publicly, and so I went to Flagstaff, Arizona. Gary Craig was teaching there, and he said something that kind of changed my mind. He said, you know, you can help more people if you gave seminars. Well, in my mind, I saw myself do it in my mind. Now, by the way, I couldn't stand in front of class. Public speaking was horrific. But there was a girl at that seminar. I kept tapping on her and helping her because I love helping people. And so the next month, she got us a gig to speak at Global Science Group, and there were 300 people. Now, she was with me, next to me. By the way, I was horribly scared, but I kept tapping, and the video's up on YouTube. And I was just standing over by her, and I was scared, but I did it. But I kept tapping afterwards. There were 2 people at that seminar. One of them invited me to Florida to speak. Now here it is, I never spoke publicly, ever. No drama class, no in front of school, and they're inviting me to come and speak. And then of course there was a guy in Wichita, Kansas. And I get 40 seminars in Kansas. So I started building this, and just by practicing. So now, of course, my poor little home, and we thought we were wealthy in our little trailer house. But my life began to change. I started giving seminars every week. Some weeks I do one a day. And I said, I keep practicing. One of these days I'm going to be great. And I just kept practicing. So now here it is. This is 22 years later. I've gave seminars in probably 20 different countries. And this year is the first year in probably 7 years I spent home more than 3 months. And so for me, little Oklahoma boy, never thought he'd leave Oklahoma. This is the change in my life. And the beautiful thing is that I'm not the same person. My personality has shifted, my ideology of who I think I am and how I am. I have beautiful people in my life. That is a different Robert. Totally different. It's almost like, was it really me, Because today is the real me. That's the big change in myself personally.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's like walking the talk.
Yeah. Well, if I were to say my success is based on one thing, I persistently kept working on me. Because it's the only thing that saved me. It's the only thing that worked. And if it works, I'm telling you what, I'm going to hold on to it and use it. It saved my life. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Robert. That's very inspiring. And Robert, of course, you this is a 20 plus, almost 22 years long journey. So you might have had so many case studies to refer. But could you please share one or two? I'm curious to know, like, one or two case studies.
Yeah. Well, if I were to go to any of them, because there's so many major life changes I've seen personally in front of me, but I go back to the first early ones that were pivotal. I'm in Wichita, Kansas, and Wichita, Kansas. There's a home called a Riverview Retreat. It's like an old house, hippie hangout. And so I'm here in front of about 60 people up front, and there were 2 people volunteered that day. One of them, her name was Susan, and she had a horrible fear of spiders. So she came on up, and it took me 10 minutes to change his spider fear. But the second person, this woman, I don't remember what her name is. I think her video is on YouTube somewhere. But she had these big whelps on her hands on both sides, and she looked like an old lady. She shuffled up to the bar stool, sat there, and I said, "How can I help you?" She said, "Well, I woke up one morning with my hands, I woke up my morning with these hands like this, and so I went to the chiropractor." Now this has been 4 years or 5 years before. Still whelps there, still like an old beat up woman. And I said, "Well, what happened?" She goes, "Well," she said, "Well, I went to the chiropractor, and I don't know why my hands were like this." And I said, "Well, anything happened before this?" She goes, "Yeah, my daughter, she was driving down the highway, a deer ran across the road, she swerved to miss it, she hit a tree and killed herself. And she's so grieving, and sad." And she said, "I woke up one morning with my hands like this, and so I went to the chiropractor, and they're using a process called an E-stem, and they put these little pads on the wrist, on that top, on their hands, because they're like this. And what they would do is they would, they'd turn it on, and they would adjust it to where she could feel it. And then they would leave it there for a while, and they'd come back and do it again, and they'd do it again. But one day there was a new girl there. She comes in, put the pads on, and she turns it. Can you feel it? No. Can you feel it? No. Can you feel it? No. And she realized it wasn't turned on. While it was full blast, she turns it on, and now she's screaming like she's being electrocuted. She had these whelps on her hand, and she's had it for 4 or 5 years. In front of these 60 people, I tapped on this woman. The whelps on her hand went down. They weren't completely gone, but they were less, like 3/4 down than what we started. When she walked to her chair, she didn't shuffle. She walked to her chair. That was one of the big ahas. Matter of fact, that place there, Riverview Retreat, played a major role in my education on how the mind works. A lot of processes I created working there. All right, so that's one of the big ones. Now Susan, the one with the spider fear, all her life she's had spider fear. And again, she come up, I say, you know, how do you know you have a spider fear? She says, I got this big spider in my mind, this big. I said, have you ever had spider experiences? She goes, yeah. You know, my husband come home, there's a pile of shoes, there's a spider underneath it. Sitting on the loo or the toilet, a spider crawled out from under. I said, what's your earliest experience? She goes, oh, I know. I'm 6 or 7 years old eating breakfast. And my brother, he's, you know, comes down to breakfast, he goes, how did you sleep last night? He goes, I slept good. He goes, well, I'm surprised. She goes, why? She said, well, last night I took a daddy long spider, took him all apart, put him in your bed. So she runs upstairs, pull the covers back, and she screams. That was the beginning of her spider fear. Now, the rest of the story is, I live in Oklahoma. So I went to because I'm going to Wichita, Kansas, and they got all these people with spider fear. So I go to the pet store and I buy a tarantula. It's a red one, very docile. They don't hurt anybody. So I took it there, and here it is. I said, let's see if you can hold it. So I tap. I got pictures of her holding this spider, smiling. All right. So here it is. Spider fear is gone. And I said, well, you can have her. So she kept her for months, and she said, Robert, I think I'm ready to give her back to you. I named her Sheila. So here it is, I had Sheila. Now, 8 years later, I still got Sheila. And I go, when is this spider gonna die? So I called up the pet store and I said, well, it depends. If it's a male spider, it lives 7, it's already 8. And a female could live 25 years. Well, this spider lived 18 for me. So this was 2 major ones, really, really big ones, that really had a major impact on my thinking. And I would leave with one more. This woman, she came to see me many times. Well, there's so many others pop in my head. But this woman came to see me. She had severe adult asthma, 18 years of asthma, HEPA purifier in her car, a specialized doctor. But she didn't come for that. She was physically abused. She had a car accident, had back pain. She had all kinds of traumas. And I just cleaned up trauma after trauma. She'd come. And then one day she said, Robert, why don't you cure my asthma? I go, okay, we can try. So in that 2 hours, I went to her memories and references of asthma, and it was gone. 1 year later, she came to see me. She said, Robert, I think my asthma is trying to come back because I had a little bit of a thing. I said, what happened? Well, I was in the car with my mother. She was smoking weed, and I felt trapped, so we tapped on it, it's gone. 10 years later, actually 6 years later, I was at a health fair, and she goes, Robert, she walked in, I was thinking about you today. I was missing my flowers, and I used to have asthma. And then 10 years later, I call her up, still the same. So severe adult asthma, severe, like it controlled her whole life, and it was gone. And there's hundreds, and you can watch my videos on YouTube, lots and lots of amazing stories. And it works.
Thank you, Robert. And Robert, see, you asked this lady with asthma where her past reference was, and there was this lady who came up after going to chiropractor, but there were past references. But was there any case study, or is there any situation where a person does not have a past reference, which means there is a past reference, but they are not able to feel it, think about it, no memory, no emotion.
Exactly.
They don't know what is the root cause yet. Could past EFT help such cases?
Of course, because we know how problems are created. Now, here's a bizarre thing. Like Jonah, for example, he's a young man, he has spider fears. He's never seen spiders. I've had a shark fear, never saw sharks in my life. But here, Jonah and I watched a movie, we learned to have a fear. And didn't even know we learned it. All right, so we can learn to have fears by watching TV. We can watch somebody else have a fear, and our brain will encode it and create it. Now we also, we talk about the fight or flight, response, but there's another one. It's called the freeze fright response. It means, one, if something happens, you'll fight back, or you'll take off running, or you'll go numb and dumb, check out, it happens, it's over, and you don't remember what happened. So a lot of people will have traumas or experiences, they don't have any mental conscious recall. And what I do in training level 3, I say, let me show you how to go in and find those and bring them to the front and then rewrite those. So the brain is very complex, and it's very simple if you know how to work it. So again, you don't have to have the original memory, but you do have memory. And that memory is what we would call a metaphoric expression of others. And we can address it that way. It's like the girl, I stepped into a health fair, and Janice goes, Robert can help you with that, your nail biting. So I said, yeah, why don't you come on over here, I'll help you. So here it is, she had no fingernails, it was like down to nothing, you know. 15 minutes later, she says, I can't make myself bite my nails. I said, but we don't know why. So months later, 6 months later, I went to the same health fair, and she's there. And I gave a presentation. She said, look, Robert, I got fingernails. She said, you know, what really bothered me the most is I didn't know why. So I kept asking my mind, why did I chew my nails? Why did I chew my nails? And the mind finally gave her the memory. Now here's what happened. She said, I was watching a TV show as a little 6 or 7 year old little girl. And I watched Shirley Temple, and she was abandoned in an orphanage. Weeks or months later, my mother took me to the daycare for the first time. That's when I started chewing my nails. Fear. Had no idea why, she just did it. So there is ways to go deeper. There are ways to ask questions and get the right answer. But you just got to know what you're doing. So that's what I train. This is not child play. This is a very detailed training, and that means anybody can come into my office with any kind of problem. Even if I don't know what the problem is, I can decode it and rewrite it and set them free.
That's awesome. And Robert, we started with how did you get into EFT tapping? And you discussed about your wife, and you wanted to help your children and your wife. What happened next?
Yeah, that's interesting. So here it is. I was married, and she had OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, which I don't believe in disorders. But what she did is she couldn't throw anything away. She had these obsessive patterns over and over again, and of course it affected our interpersonal relationship too, because she was sexually abused. So guess what? She doesn't collect stuff. She doesn't have fears, and believe it or not, from that experience, the relationship blossomed in such a great way. And so we grew up, and we healed up, and we moved forward in our lives.
Amazing.
Yeah. So it is. There's so many stories I could tell, so many stories, But the truth is, for me, I was talking to a guy the other day. He's a doctor, and he says he's getting close to retirement, and I said, he says, I don't know what to do with my life. I said, you need to find your passion. You need to find something that feeds you. And of course, he's telling a story where, he saved someone's life, and then they come in and he brags about how, actually he saved a little baby who came in, he's basically dead. He brought it back to life, and this grandfather comes in all the time saying, he's the man, he saved my child. And it feeds him. And that's what feeds me. When I work with people, and I get messages, emails, people do videos, and they tell me how it's changed their life and how it affected their son, their children. That's what feeds me. I'm driven by seeing results and changes, And me as growing up as a child, my problem started in childhood, and so we're rolling out this July called Emotional Education for teachers and carers of students, teaching them how to be emotionally intelligent, showing them how to clean up some of this stuff that we had to wrestle with from our childhood, from our schools, and from that. So, that's where my passion is. Seeing a change, making a difference in the world.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Robert. It was a lot of learning for me as well, to understand the whole science behind at least to getting introduced to the science of faster EFT, not to understand yet. So thanks a lot.
Very good. It was very nice meeting you too. Maybe someday I'll come to India. Maybe invite me and
Yeah, please.
we'll come and I'll come and do a seminar there. That'd be great.
Yes, definitely. That will be awesome. Thanks a lot, Robert. Today, we got to know about how faster EFT evolved, what are the various levels, what's the difference between each level, how difference is faster EFT than EFT. It was really amazing to have this conversation with you and to understand nuances of faster EFT to some extent, I can say, just because it's just a theoretical level, and it was very useful. Thanks a lot, Robert.
So if I were to say one thing before I leave is this: my motto is learn how to love you, like you, and be kind within you. That means change those unpleasant memories that has caused you harm. Change every person in your mind. Change it until inside you have pleasantries.
Okay.
And then your life will be better.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
That was an amazing message. Thank you, Robert.
Very good.